Hello, Scream Demons, and welcome to the Screams from the Basement podcast.
The scariest horror podcast on this side of the Black Lagoon, Screams from the Basement discusses the best double features the horror genre has to offer.
We also interview the industry's finest that make our screams become nightmares. I am one of your creepy co-hosts. I am Casey.
And I'm Sam the Damned, and let's get screaming.
Let's get screaming on Screams from the Basement. Sam, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. This is going to be a fun double feature that we're going to be talking about today. What is that double feature?
We're talking Cellar Dweller and I, Madman, two kind of lost to time movies from the 80s. One of which has gotten a little bit of a resurgence due to a box set that just came out, and one that's still kind of sadly forgotten about. But we're shining a light on both of these movies tonight. I'm pretty excited. They work pretty well together, don't they, Casey?
No, I think this is a perfect double feature for both of these movies because one, they both came out within like a year of each other. They're both from the late 80s, 88, 89, and also these are both movies about either comic book characters or book characters come to life. So I think that's where the double feature of this really lies. And the reason we're doing this is because ever since I've known you, you've talked about this movie called I, Madman. And you're the only person I've ever known that just talked endlessly about I, Madman. You need to watch this movie. And I'm like, I know nothing about this. I understand the plot of like a book character come to life, but I, Madman. What are we doing with this movie?
So way back in high school, I was at a Books and More back when Books and More was a thing, BAM.
Yeah.
And I was at the Ames Books and More, and I was digging through their bargain bin discount DVDs that they just had for I think I got this movie for $3 at a Books and More. And it was like the only copy of that movie in this bargain bin. And the cover was so weird and wacky that I picked it up and I took it home and I watched it, and I found it both schlocky and cheap and cheesy, but also weirdly effective in some ways. I was a little creeped out by it, and I don't know, it just stuck with me. And yeah, it's one that I've kind of recently come back to in adulthood, after not having watched it for quite a few years. And I just I don't know. I love this movie. It's got everything you want in a movie. It's got stalk and chase sequences. It's got slasher kills. It's got stop motion monsters that come seemingly out of nowhere.
It's got it all. Everything you'd expect from an 80s horror movie.
I love this movie, and I know your Letterboxd rating was. I'm hoping that through conversation I can get you to bump that up to a more positive one,
more favorable one. No, this movie again, I knew nothing about this besides what you told me about it. But let's jump into it. I, Madman. This was released April 7th, 1989. It's directed by Hungarian filmmaker Tibor. Do you know how to pronounce his last name?
I am not entirely sure.
It is Tibor Takas. I'm gonna guess is how you Takas. Either way, Takas, Hungarian filmmaker, best known for The Gate, which came out a few years before this, written by David Chaskin, who is best known for writing the screenplay for A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
David Chaskin.
Fuck David Chaskin. We just had to get that out there right away. Sorry for all the Nightmare on Elm Street 2 fans who hoped one day we would interview David Chaskin. It's not going to happen.
Never.
The plot for I, Madman is Virginia, an aspiring actress and bookstore employee, is obsessed with horror novels, and she seeks out the famed I, Madman book from deceased author Alan Kessler. Only Kessler may not be deceased, nor is I, Madman just a book, rather a memoir. That is I, Madman.
Yeah.
So first things first, jumping
Yeah.
into this movie. This movie doesn't really have anyone in it that you would recognize. I think that was the first thing that really stood out to me because
No.
we talk a lot about 80s horror movies and it's always like, oh, here's a staple, a regular of 80s horror movies, or here's this person who got their start in horror movies: Johnny Depp, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Bacon, etc., 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 and then went on to bigger things afterwards. I Man doesn't really have that well known of a cast, at least, or at least one where you're going to recognize them from, oh, hey, they were in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, Jenny Wright is from Near Dark, but that's not exactly a huge household name either, just because it also has, like, rights that keep fluctuating
Yeah.
and coming in and out. Yeah.
Yeah. So this movie opens with her, Jenny Wright, who plays Virginia. And Virginia is I don't know, would you call her you would call her a typical final girl where she's pretty meek and mild, very
Yeah.
reserved.
She
She's trying to be an actress. She works at this bookstore in the most like Chicago neighborhood in Los Angeles. Like this movie has like such a Chicago vibe. I was shocked when it was like, no, she's in LA and she's an actress. I'm like, this is Chicago. They're wearing like winter coats and it's pretty
Yeah.
nasty and gross. Like this feels very Chicago to me.
She's kind of the typical dame in the, like, pulp novels that this movie likes to reference. Um, I love how when we're introduced to her, she's literally just, like, reading books in lingerie, like
Yeah. She's straight up wearing lingerie, sitting on her couch, like just reading these 50s pulp novels
Yeah,
about a serial killer. Yeah. The first pulp novel that she's reading, I got to read off this name because the name of the novel she's reading is incredible. Again, it's
yeah,
from the fictitious author Alan Kessler. Much of Madness, More of Sin.
yeah.
Like that
Great
should be the
title.
name. That should be the name of this movie. I think that's a better name than I Madman. I'm not gonna lie. I wish that was the name of this movie because that's an incredible title. I love that title so much. Much of Madness, More of Sin. That fits the plot of the movie too. Like,
It does, yeah,
yeah,
100%, yeah.
yeah. So the thing about this, like, okay, I want to talk about. We're not gonna go like beat by beat for the plot. Like I gave the whole plot, but the thing that didn't vibe with me too much, at least in the first half. It's a
Mhm.
pretty slow movie. It takes a while for anything to happen. And these characters aren't that interesting, at least to hang around with the whole first third of this movie where the I Madman doesn't, when the author doesn't show up. So that's my one of my biggest gripes is this is a slow. I wouldn't say it's a slow burn movie because it's not like it's building up to something. It's just a slow first half where it's like trying to figure out what we really want this movie to be.
Yeah, it takes maybe a little bit too long setting up stock characters that aren't really fully fleshed out. And it's like that does pay off later in the movie with, like, each of the victims from a previous scene in this movie, but also, like, they could have just been random people, and I don't necessarily know if it would've changed the plot all that much.
I mean, for us
You
as an
know?
audience, they're still pretty much just random people that are getting killed.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, but they all are people that are our
Connected
final
to
girl,
connected
like
to our final girl, yes.
yeah, which kind of factors in, but, like, we spend so much time setting up all of these pieces, like,
Yeah,
the acting class scene at the beginning of this is much longer than it really needs to be,
yeah,
and, like, it's kinda part of the vibe, you know? It's like it is like a pulp novel in a lot of ways, and honestly, a lot of pulp novels, especially in the beginning, are pretty slow, like, they're setting up pieces, and if you've read one, you've kind of read them all, and so they're always setting up the same pieces, and I feel like that's both this movie's intention, but doesn't necessarily mean that it works, you know what I mean?
yeah, and Virginia as a character doesn't have much to latch onto as a character. Like she's a like we see her in one acting class. We don't ever see her go on like auditions or anything like that. She ends up she's
She doesn't
working at a
even
bookstore.
act
She doesn't even act like in the actual
in the
class that
acting
she's at.
class. Yeah.
Uh and then they sort of set up this love triangle that doesn't really play out at all. It's like just kind of hinted at, but
Yeah.
never played for drama or anything like that. Oh, it could be maybe it's her boyfriend, maybe it's the guy from this acting class. It's like no, we don't explore either either of those. Also, the boyfriend, he's a cop,
Yeah. And he's
and he's a
a
cop,
bad cop.
and he's a cop. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
He's
a
not a
cop that
good
does.
cop.
He's a cop that doesn't believe his girlfriend.
He's a pulp cop. Like that's I mean, that's the thing. These are like yeah.
Sorry, I'm not trying to like shit on your movie. It's just like
No, no, because
the
what you're
things I
saying
liked,
is
the things I really
accurate.
liked. Yeah,
Yeah, what you're saying is accurate. I just to me, it's part of the vibe. Like, the whole vibe of this movie is that it's, like,
yeah,
a cheap, pulpy kind of movie based on cheap, pulpy books, and, there's just something charming about how low budget and just, frankly, low stakes it is, you know what I mean? Like, I love putting this movie on a rainy Saturday afternoon because it's just, like, the perfect movie to draw the shades, hear the rain pattering on the glass, and just, like, vibe with, you know?
yeah. It is definitely that movie. I wasn't on the same wavelength as this movie was. There's a lot of things I did like. And again, I love that it is like an homage to pulp novels. I mean, it's straight up taking this woman who's alone in her apartment and the killer comes and also has a very sleazy vibe, like we said, where she's reading this pulp novel in her lingerie. There's a point where she's like getting horned up reading her book, and then her boyfriend comes over and they have like this Top Gun level sex scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it has all those vibes you expect. It needed to be a little faster paced for me. I think that was
That's
my
fair.
biggest thing in that first half. But when you get into the second half, when things start to unravel, and we start seeing, okay, who is actually behind all these killings, because they start killing off people loosely related to our main character. And spoilers,
Mhm.
spoilers for I Madman. Like, please go check this out. Or
Yeah.
if you don't care about spoilers, like that's okay. There's not much. Just
Yeah.
it's a slasher movie. You understand what's gonna
I
happen.
mean, yeah, there's not well, there is stuff to spoil, but I don't think knowing that going into it like, some of the stuff in the 3rd act is so zany that if you spoil it for yourselves, you're gonna wanna check it out because, like, I'll just say this, the final act of this movie is really fucking weird.
Yeah, and that also kind of breaks the pulpy the like pulp
It's
vibes this
really
movie.
strange.
Yeah, then it
Yeah.
becomes like just a weird 80s movie. I don't know. This movie's all kind of all over the place.
So, I don't think we said this in the in the opening notes, but this is the same director who did The Gate, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
very much more of, like, a fantasy, like, family horror with a lot of, like, stop motion creatures and things, and The Gate came out before this, so I kinda wonder if he was just like, "No, we have to have these fantasy elements in this because it's my signature." I don't
It's my
know.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a stop motion monster in this, and I think it's a
Yeah.
pretty damn good stop
It's
motion monster. I
cool.
think it's really
It's
fun. Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
So once we realize, what's happening, that Alan Kessler is back. Maybe he never died, or maybe he. I don't know. It's pretty vague how he is. I don't know.
Yeah.
What is your interpretation of Alan Kessler, who is the author who wrote all these novels, and she discovers these novels in a trunk that's delivered to her bookstore, and
Yeah.
he begins stalking her and then killing off people in her lives, much like his I Madman book. What is
Yeah.
your interpretation? Has he been alive this whole time? Is he like, did he put some voodoo curse on the book? Like, what is?
So, I definitely think he's still alive, I know they keep it kind of vague, like he was released from a mental institution and then was later found dead or something but
Yeah,
it's like but no one ever like something happened where they thought he died, but no one ever found a body type of thing. And so you just kinda in my mind, yeah, like it's just the author
stalking her. Yeah.
stalking her, which is kinda creepy. I kinda wish it would've just been supernatural in a way, because that would've been I mean, I guess it is kind of, because the end of this movie goes full supernatural. Um,
Yeah, my interpretation is that it's supernatural, that he did die, but before he died, there's some sort of
like, thing where he can
curse.
come back
Yeah,
through the books.
curse on his book or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, if you read his book, the things that happen will start happening to you, I guess, is the way I would read into it. I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
very I don't know. It doesn't explicitly say what's happening here, which is probably good for audience to keep them on their toes, but probably need some sort of resolution with that by the end of it. But I like to think it
Well,
was
it kinda
natural.
does.
Look, sure.
Uh, yeah, so the thing with this too is, like, it's not just, like, slasher just to kill people. Like, the whole lore of the book is that this man is obsessed with a woman, and he wants to make himself beautiful for her. So he's taking body parts off of people's
Yeah,
faces. Like
that he's killing.
he's
Yeah,
sawed off his own face and so that he could start from scratch, and he's now surgically attaching parts that he's like facial features that he's peeling off of people. And I don't know, I love how grotesque that gets. I think the killer makeup in this is incredible, especially as the movie keeps going
yeah,
and you see more of that. Like yeah, it's just it's very unnerving and unsettling every time you see the killer's face on screen.
yeah. I wrote down in my notes. I mean, he's looking. So he doesn't have any hair when we first meet him. He's missing his ears, his nose,
Yep,
and his lips. Like, those are the four big body parts that he took off of
yep,
himself, and is trying to make himself more beautiful. So he steals the hair of the other actress that was up for a part that Virginia was.
yep.
He then takes the ears of the piano guy,
Pianist, yeah,
the from
across
we
the
got to talk about
street.
from across the street. We got to talk about that scene. He takes the nose from the other actor, and then the lips from her friend. So, I mean, at least two of them make sense why he stole those particular body parts.
Yeah.
I don't know what a nose has to do with the other
Okay,
male
but the
actor.
thing is the guy he takes the nose from in the class, I only realized this, like,
Oh
this
yeah, he
last
has
time
the
around, he
like
puts the fake
Pinocchio.
nose on.
Yeah, is the
It's
fake
like
nose,
total
but
foreshadowing, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Like, his nose literally falls off of his face in the first scene he's in.
yeah. But one of the best scenes in this, for me, was when Virginia's reading I, Madman, and it was such a vibe where she has her window open, it's raining outside, and right across from her apartment is a like piano store, and this guy is playing this piano, and she's like just listening to literally live piano music outside her window while
Mhm.
she's reading like this pulp noir novel in
It's
the
so
rain. I'm
vibey.
like, it's so vibey, and like that's what this movie is definitely going for, and I think it achieves it the most in that scene, because then as she starts reading this, she's reading what's happening on the page that's also happening in real life just outside her window.
Yeah, it's like, that's probably one of the best sequences of the whole movie.
Dare I say a bit Hitchcocky.
Oh,
I
very
will say
Hitchcock,
that. I
yeah.
think that's when the movie
It's
starts to
very
pick
Rear
up.
Window, yeah,
Yeah.
like and I love the way they frame the piano store and the way they pan like, they come out of the apartment and then tilt down across the street, and it's not even on the ground level, it's, like, still on the 3rd floor up, but the rest of this building is just empty, so it's like a giant wall of just darkness, and then a little lone light with a piano.
Hmm.
And I don't know. It's such a cool visual and audio motif that they come back to a few times before he meets his unfortunate demise. But yeah. I love that. The other chase sequence that I really like is the, the actress that he takes
Yeah.
the hair from.
That has my favorite shot in this movie where she's running away from him trying to get into her apartment. And she
Yep.
makes it to the door and she can't get the key in. And all of a sudden she looks down the hallway and there he is and the camera like crash zooms down the hall like right up to a
Yeah,
close up of his face. It's an
and he
incredible shot.
pulls out the needle, and it's like,
Yep.
"Oh, no, 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 no." Yeah,
Incredible shot. Yeah.
yeah. Other shot in that I love is him coming up to the apartment door window as she's waiting for the elevator, and, like, you see outside, and you see his silhouette come up, and then he just tilts his head, and you start getting just a little bit of his facial features,
Hmm.
and then she runs off, like, that oh, the whole sequence gives me the creeps, like, I that one is that's a genuinely unnerving sequence, I think. The stairwell sequence, like, the stairwell where she's looking down and, like, he's staring up at her and just walking
Hmm.
slowly while she's just hoofing it to her apartment, like, oh, I'm a sucker for that scene. It's yeah.
Yeah, these two scenes back to back with the actress and the piano player are the highlight of this movie for me. It's where the movie starts to pick up and really gets I think it just nails that vibe perfectly.
Mhm.
I think the one thing maybe I would have changed, even though I said I think it is supernatural, like how this guy comes back. I think if they played it more realistic and had like a killer reveal at the end instead
Yeah,
would
maybe.
lead more to suspense, sorry,
Yeah,
in the third act where it's like, okay, who's actually the killer? Maybe put them in a mask or something, or just leave the thing covering his face. But
yeah,
instead, it goes, I don't know. It has this weird, like I wrote down, it's a weird, like Phantom of the Opera meets Jack the Ripper vibe that the killer has, and I
yeah.
think I mean, it's a total vibe. But I would have liked maybe it's a murder mystery, maybe it's a who done it.
It almost like there are times where it feels a little like a giallo, like in the chase sequence with the stairwell
Yes.
and all that,
Yep.
to where, like yeah, I even remember, like, the first time watching it, I thought, like, "I wonder who this is." Like, the whole way up until it was just basically like, "Oh, it's
It's the author.
clearly just the author."
Yeah.
And I remember that being, like, a little bit of a disappointment, which is why, like, I love this movie, but it's not like a five-star masterpiece in my opinion or anything like that. I just I don't know, I the vibe of the movie, especially in these sequences where it really nails it, is just I'm a sucker for it. I'm a sucker for it. Um The chase sequence with the acting class guy is not quite as good, but
There's
I
not much
do
to it, really.
no.
There's a cool shot of where you have I Madman running across the street, and you're like right next to her, and you're like seeing him just
Yeah,
run across the street in the background.
yeah, you see him and you're like you're kinda having a turn around, like
Yeah,
he's right behind you kind of moment. Um, I
but then
do love the lighting.
he's just killing the guy like as soon as she catches up. Like there's not much of a
Yeah,
chase or anything like that.
I do love that shot though, the shot where she catches up and he is cutting off the guy's nose because it's all backlit, it's, like, very silhouette-y and you like between the sound design and the guy screaming, it's like, "Ah, I think it's effective." I think it's an effective payoff, I just wish there was maybe a better chase leading up to it.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe we can talk a little bit about the David Chaskin of all this because he's the writer of this movie.
Mhm.
And I think in this case, I don't know if he understood the assignment or what they were going for because it does feel like he's maybe a studio notes, could just be studio notes. But
Could be.
I feel like we're on the tail end of the slashers and what they could have done is something more Alfred Hitchcock rather than a stalk and chase slasher. And I think
Yeah.
there's a little bit of both, but I feel like I don't know, there's just too much 80s ness in it to fully reach that noir or Alfred Hitchcock vibe.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong at all. Yeah.
So, what happens in the third act, Sam? Try to explain this third act.
So, okay, before we get into the third act, I did write down a bunch of quotes that made me laugh this time around. Because there are some pretty banger lines in this. When her boyfriend is like asking her why she keeps reading this shit, her response is, "It's like potato chips. I can't stop." I love that. Um, when she's talking about I Madman to her boyfriend for the first time, she's like, "Oh, it makes Stephen King read like Mother Goose." Funny. Um,
Well, definitely David Chaskin lines.
yeah, oh, 100%. They're so cheesy and cheap, but it works. I don't know. Um, yeah, there's like and she's explaining the plot of the book to her boyfriend, and this one made me laugh. She's talking about him cutting off his facial features and putting new ones on, and he goes, "Slicing off his face. Jesus, hasn't this guy heard of a candygram?" Like the boyfriend's getting genuinely upset at the fake plot of this book because at this point they think it's still fake. Oh
Yeah,
god. Yeah, so good. Um the best friend in the bookstore, we did not talk about her yet, Mona.
I'll let you
In
take this. She left no impression on me. I'm sorry
Oh
because
my
I
god.
know you said she's your favorite character in this. She left zero impression.
Oh, I'm a sucker for the sassy like best friend who works retail. She's like the Aunt Maggie of this movie, from Child's Play. I just I don't know. Mona and her interactions with the customers just make me laugh. I just think she's a much needed dose of of humor in this movie. Like she is the comic relief, and I don't know. I love Mona. Her line is after a guy comes in, he buys a I can't even remember what the title of the book is. We both laughed at it.
It's
Did you
like a
write it
you.
down?
It was a used book because she makes some
Yeah.
joke about it being a used book, but it was something for
Yeah. Who
swingers.
would buy a used sex manual?
Yeah,
Yeah. Anyways, Mona, like, so the third act, she's finally convinced her boyfriend that the killer is following the plot of this book. She convinces him to read it with her. They set up basically a sting operation, a trap, a Scooby-Doo trap, where she plays a librarian at a library and leaves her work at a bookstore early for Mona to close up, and the killer doesn't show up at the library. It's a scene that hasn't aged particularly well, where a custodian of color comes in and the police all have their guns trained on him, and he's just holding a feather duster.
why is he there?
I don't know. I have no
Because
idea.
like they had this place on lock. Like it was the
Yeah.
one librarian who was going to be part of the sting operation. They
Mhm.
made sure to kick everybody out of the library,
Yep.
apparently, except for this custodian who was like
Yeah.
hiding out in his janitor's closet or something while they were kicking. It doesn't make any sense. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty
It's
goofy.
it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
So yeah, the killer doesn't show up. They
because the thing is
because
like it's the person's going to be surrounded by books and has a cat,
yeah,
and they
and
believe
at
oh
a
because
bookstore.
and because there's a cat statue, there's a lion statue outside of the library. That's the
Yep.
connection that they had. Except no, it's actually the cat that her friend finds in one scene
Yeah.
at the bookstore, and she ends up getting killed by
Yeah.
the killer.
My biggest issue with this is she gets killed off screen, and our final girl has to find her with the cat licking her blood up, which I'm like, I don't think cats do that, but sure. My cats wouldn't do that to me.
Cat, well, the cat got taste for blood.
Yeah, I
It's out for
guess.
blood now. I mean, it was
So
a cat like they just found on the street, so who knows what
yeah,
that
that's
cat is eating
true.
for?
That cat might be rabid.
Yeah.
Um,
Might have
no,
been the
yeah.
cat that killed her. It might not even been the author. It was probably the cat.
Yeah, the cat just killed her before the author got there. But yeah, she finds her friend dead, and then, the killer's there. And this is okay, this is the messiest bookstore ever. It is the most overstuffed, ridiculous bookstore ever. I love the set design in this movie because every set is ridiculously overflowing. Like,
Yeah, there's
with
books like
books, with
stacked on top of the staircase. Like you could barely walk up the stairs without jumping over a book.
yeah, it's amazing. So, she's running to the back of the store to go up into the attic, which I'm like, "That's the worst way to go. There's gotta be a back door there somewhere." A loading dock, something. Um, yeah, an avalanche of books happens on the staircase going up to the attic, and so there's a bunch of tension, and the guy's chasing her. They get up to the attic, and they're scuffling, and police detective boyfriend shows up. Oh, yeah, because she calls the cop station, and another cop answers his phone and is gonna deliver a message that literally says, "At bookstore, urgent." And the other cop goes, "Oh, it's from his old lady. That won't do him any favors delivering it now," and, puts it sets it back down and walks away.
Worst cops ever. Like these are
Horrible cops.
this entire force should be fired. Every
Yeah,
every single person on it should be fired. They
they're
should not have
ridiculous.
jobs.
They're
That's where
terrible.
I agree with the defund the police. Defund
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
actual precinct. Like they're all terrible. Get rid of them and bring some actual competent people in here.
yeah. It's it's pretty bad. So yeah, the boyfriend somehow still gets the message, and he shows up just in the nick of time, and the scuffle ensues. And in the scuffle, she
She has
basically she
she has the realization of, oh, if this book is coming to life, I can bring
yeah,
his
much
other
of
books to
madness,
life.
more of sin, which had the stop motion creature from earlier. Because yeah, the cold open is from that book. It's
Yeah.
like an excerpt from that book that we then cut to her reading to that she's reading. That's the reveal of the opening. So it comes back full circle. The half jackal, half human thing shows up. It fights Kessler, and it ends with them jumping out of the window together and exploding into a million pages.
Not before the stop motion creature gets chopped in half and
Yes.
ends up like running like with just its torso up on running on its hands and then jumps at Kessler and they go like bursting through the window and turn into
Into a
pages
flurry of pages, yeah.
because we're at the 87-minute mark and we gotta wrap
Yeah,
this
we
movie up.
gotta wrap it up, and then the 2 lovers hug and watch all the paper float away into the sky, the badly rendered paper that
Yeah, it was a weird shot. I don't know
is a
what
weird shot.
it was. Almost like they shot, I don't know, it almost looked like green screen of the city skyline, and
Yeah,
then didn't shoot actual paper, used like cheap computer graphics from the late 80s to make the paper.
yeah,
Instead
it's
of just
pretty
shooting like either a miniature or just like releasing a bunch of paper off a building and shooting that. I don't know. It's a very weird shot.
it's a rough shot,
It's
yeah.
a rough.
So that's the I don't know, but that's I Madman, that's the
That's
charm
I
of it.
Madman.
I love this movie, it's so fun.
Uh
Uh,
it's something. Sam, I'll go first because I want to leave it off with a positive rating on I Madman. This wasn't for me. I some of the I think like I gave this movie 2.5 stars out of 5. It
insane.
just wasn't vibing with me. I think there are some great sequences, like I said, right in the middle of the movie where you have the piano sequence, which I think is the best sequence of the movie. And then you have the great shot down the hallway where it zooms right into the killer's face. But yeah, the first half is just it's too slow, and then the third act is like what's even happening anymore? What's going on? And then that final shot was just all right. Okay. That's what we're leaving off on. Yeah, I Madman, not for me. I understand why people like this, and I think there are genuinely great qualities in this movie that make it worth watching. So if people have, that's the thing. I gave it 2.5 stars, but I'm still going to recommend people watch this movie because like it's a recommendable movie. It just
It
didn't work
is
for me. It just didn't work for me
currently streaming on the Roku channel for
on
people
the
who do
Roku
wanna check
channel.
it out. Um, Otherwise, there's an out of print, Scream Factory Blu-ray that
Or
I
find the
I have.
DVD at what was it? Books a Million? Where did you
Oh,
buy
yeah,
it at?
Books& and More or Books A
Books.
Million. Maybe it was
Yeah.
Books A Million, I don't know, it was
Yeah.
one of those. It's BAM!
Bam!
That's what it said on the front of the store, but it stood for something.
Yeah. Sam, what
Uh,
about you? I Madman, what's your score?
I give I Madman 4 severed facial features out of 5 severed facial features. I love this movie. It's one that I did hunt down the out of print Blu-ray. I stupidly sold my DVD that I'd held on to since high school to Last Stop when I like first moved up here, and didn't buy it back in time. So someone out in the Sioux Falls area has an I Madman DVD that originally was mine, and I hope they enjoyed it.
Probably has a Books a Million sticker on the back or something.
I think it probably does. So yeah, I love this movie. 4 out of 5 for me. Um, yeah, it's a banger. I highly recommend checking it out. It's weird as shit.
Mhm.
That's all I'll say. It's weird as shit. Yep.
Well, people out there listening, please let us know if you have ever seen I Man. What are your thoughts on the movie? Where do you lie on this? And yeah, let us know your thoughts on it. But Sam, let's get to our first ad break of the
Yeah.
podcast. We got to give a shout out to our friends at Fangoria. Fangoria, for over 40 years, has been the leading source for all things horror. The famed magazine is back with a vengeance every quarter with new in depth discussions on the best contemporary horror, science fiction, and macabre. You can use our affiliate link to save 20% on your annual subscription to the magazine, or you can use that on back issues or the latest Fango merch. Please visit shop.fangoria.com/screams from the basement. That is shop.fangoria.com/screams from the basement and use promo code screams from the basement at checkout to save 20%. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, scan that QR code right below me there. So again, thanks to Fangoria for sponsoring this episode of the podcast.
Woo!
Speaking of Fangoria, I'm going to use this as our transition. The next movie we're going to be talking about was featured on the original run of Fangoria magazines. It was on the cover of Fangoria number 71. It is 1988's Cellar Dweller.
I actually think I have that Fangoria too.
I think you do. When we were looking through
Yeah,
Fangos together and you grabbed it, yeah.
yeah, Pop Culture Exchange. I'm pretty sure I bought
Yep,
that one, didn't I?
yep,
Yeah, yeah,
yep,
yeah. It's on
yep.
my shelf.
Yeah, you son of a bee. Sam's got it. Sam's got that Cellar Dweller. It's in the basement. At least one of the basement boys has the Cellar Dweller. Again, this
Yes.
movie came out September 20th, 1988, directed by John Carl Buechler, written by Kit Dubois.
Who's Kit Dubois,
Kit,
Casey?
it's Kit Dubois. They've written many of screenplays. Kit Dubois also would go on to create Child's Play and write all of the Chucky sequels and create the Chucky television series.
Wait, but that's Don Man. Oh.
They're the same person. Don Mancini is Kit Dubois.
Oh my god.
Yes, so Cellar Dweller is written by Child's Play Chucky creator Don Mancini under the pseudonym
Kit
Kit,
Dubois.
Kit Dubois. And what's crazy, though, is that this is the only non Child's Play movie Don Mancini has ever written that's been produced.
Really?
Yeah,
How did I not know this?
that's insane, right?
He's never written another produced screenplay outside of the
Just
franchise?
just Chucky and Cellar Dweller.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So the plot is Cellar Dweller, not unlike our previous movie, I Madman. This one, though, is inspired by comic book hero Colin Childress. What a great comic book writer name. Whitney Taylor attends an art institute in a remote cabin in the middle of nowhere that was set ablaze by Childress 30 years ago when his comic creation, The Cellar Dweller, came to life. And now 30 years later, what's on the page may come to life once more.
Yeah.
Cellar Dweller. So this movie, like I said, 1988, came out from Empire Pictures, produced by Charles Band. Sam, Cellar Dweller, give us your overall thoughts.
I love this movie. I've discovered this movie post us starting this podcast, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably talked about this at least twice on this podcast. More if you count all the times I've weirdly brought it up in interviews. I love Cellar Dweller. This movie rules. It is very much a Sam type of movie. It's 77 minutes, which is the perfect runtime.
Yep.
Which is also the runtime of Chopping Mall.
It's in and out. You get your plot in and then you get out.
77 minutes. Like the evidence doesn't lie. It's the best runtime there is. Yeah, no, I love this. I love the Jeffrey Combs cameo. This was actually the first time we both have the Empire of Screams box set, which this got an exclusive Blu-ray release too. Like you can't just buy Cellar Dweller on its own. You have to buy the box set.
Yep. Incredible box set. I know we both have talked about it on here, but like that, that Empire of Screams box set from Arrow Video
it's fantastic.
It's fantastic. It's easily my favorite box set that I own. It is so good. I hope they do a part 2 because there are so many different movies that they can touch on from Empire Pictures, and the image quality on all these looks incredible. Each of these movies looks so good.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I had not actually watched the remaster of Cellar Dweller yet before we watched it for the pod. Like, I think I've watched all except for one of the movies in that box set now. But I have not gotten around to like actually putting the Cellar Dweller disc on. So the last time I watched this was the like awful grainy YouTube rip that I found this movie on for the first time. So watching it now, I'm like, oh my God, this movie actually has some gorgeous lighting, and like I kind of loved it even more watching the restoration, honestly. Yeah, Cellar Dweller rules. What I know was the first time you watched it from the Empire box set.
Yeah. So that was my first time watching it. I think the only one from that set I had seen before was Dolls.
Oh, and see, I hadn't seen Dolls before that box set, and I love that movie.
What's the one movie you haven't watched in the box set yet? Because maybe we need to find a double feature for it.
It's Arena or
Robot Jocks?
No, I've seen Robot Jocks. I've watched Robot Jocks, Dolls,
Cellar
Dweller, and then
you watched Dungeon Master?
No, that's the one. I've seen Arena. That's yeah.
Dungeon Master, okay.
Yeah, Dungeon Master is the one I haven't seen yet.
Okay, we can think of something to do with that.
Because Arena's the like computer game one, right? Like
no, Arena's the one with it's basically Rocky but with aliens in boxing matches. Dungeon Master is the one with the computer programmer who.
Okay, never mind. It's Dungeon Master I've watched. I need to watch Arena.
So you've not seen Arena.
I have not seen Arena, yes.
Okay.
It took us a while, but we got there. Okay.
Okay. Dungeon Master rules. But yeah, we should find a way for you to watch Arena.
Yeah.
Okay, so this movie opens with Jeffrey Combs, little behind the scenes on this movie. This is during the dying days of Empire. We're right at the tail end of Empire. This is one of the last movies from the studio. And the thing is, as we've talked about many times when we talk about Charlie Band movies, he'll have an artist draw up a poster. He'll come up with the concept title. In this case, Cellar Dweller, with the giant monster with like the pentagram on his chest. That's what he came up with, gave it to Kit Dubois, He's like, "Hey Kit, I need you to write this movie for me. John Carl Buechler is going to make it." And Kit Dubois says, "You got it, sir." Kit Dubois, the greatest screenplay writer in cinematic history. Kit Dubois.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Don Mancini. So he basically gives the concept to Don Mancini. He pumps out this script, and John Carl Buechler comes on to direct this movie. He only had 10 days to make Cellar Dweller. So again, that goes to the runtime, how quick someone like Jeffrey Combs is in and out of this movie, because Jeffrey Combs is only in the cold open of this movie. It starts with the title card of 30 years ago, and it's him basically just drawing the Cellar Dweller. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, he's drawing it. Where does he get the inspiration from it? There's like a giant, like Necronomicon satanic book sitting next to him as he's drawing the Cellar Dweller. It's so funny.
He's literally drawing it based off of a description from,
The Necronomicon.
Discount Necronomicon. Yeah.
And then the monster comes to life.
Splits open a woman. Who also comes to life from the drawing.
Yep. We also get, there's a ton of boobs in this movie. Like there's so many boobs. Like Ozzy from Austin Powers would have a conniption fit with the amount of boobs in this.
Yeah. It's a pretty booby movie. Yeah.
It's a very booby movie. But Jeffrey Combs then realizes, oh, my monster's come to life. I need to destroy it. So he like lights the thing on fire. He lights the pages of the comic book on fire, thus burning up the monster. But apparently his house is made of gasoline because the whole place, like, at least the basement sort of burnt. Like he dies in the fire, but like
he's got paint chemicals or something, like art chemicals that go up quick. So like there's that, but yeah, like they just happen to be spilled in like a semicircle around his desk.
Just him, like only him and the monster in that tiny little basement burn up, like nothing else. The house is fine. Like
the house is fine because it starts 30 years ago, and then once he burns alive and the credits roll,
really long credits.
Really long credits. And then 30 years later.
We get the 30 years ago at the beginning. Get 30 years later if we weren't confused enough.
It's so funny.
It's so funny.
So any year you're watching it is
so
the
like
year that
Jeffrey Combs was making that comic book character in 1994.
Yeah.
That's what I choose to believe, at least.
Yeah. And then this is like some hipster school in 2024 or 2024. Where
so basically
everybody
it's like,
just dresses like they're from the 80s.
So it would be a hipster school. Yeah, they would definitely all dress like this. I mean, have you seen the type of art that these people are all working on? Like, so this is an art institute out in the middle of nowhere. It's in Jeffrey Combs' cabin out in the middle of nowhere. There's like 6 people that go to this art institute. It's led by Yvonne DiCarlo, who's Lily Munster, the original Lily Munster, which is super cool. She's so much fun.
I love her in this. Yeah.
She's incredible. So she's like I don't know if they give her a title, like the dean.
She's like the headmistress. Yeah.
Of this college. But like, it's an art institute, but it's very vague on what type of art they're teaching or not teaching.
Some of them dance, some of them act, some of them paint, some of them draw, some of them sculpt.
One of them just takes video of things.
Yeah.
So like
one of them shoots sculptures with a loaded gun.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Like there's no one goes to class. They don't have classes here. All they have is like these sessions where they can critique each other's work, even though
none of them work in the same medium.
In the same medium of art. Like it's so funny.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's the best art school ever. I'm like, I would thrive here.
Yeah, I would love to go there. One, because like, I mean, you don't ever have to go to class. You just work on your art all day long.
Yep.
2, the only thing on your walls in this art institute are Empire Picture posters. So like you're going to get a Reanimator poster on your wall. You're going to get a tiny little art of the dolls concept art on your wall.
Yep.
That's all you're getting is just posters from Empire Pictures. It's so funny because it's so noticeable. Like literally 10 minutes after Jeffrey Combs dies, you just see a Reanimator poster hanging up in the background, and there's Jeffrey Combs like with the syringe in the background.
And, like, he looks no different in this than he does in Reanimator, even with
No,
he's wearing literally, like, an artist smock that makes him look like Herbert West.
yeah, yep. It's so funny. I love this
It's so
movie so
good.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
And no, in this movie, like it knows how goofy it is. It's not trying to be anything more than a monster movie.
Oh,
And
yeah, it's not even trying to be scary, it's
no,
literally just yeah,
I mean it sets out what it wants to make. It wants to make this cool monster movie. Here's this cool monster. We're not going to hide it in the shadows. You get to see it right away in that first like 5 minutes with Jeffrey Combs. You see the entire Cellar Dweller. This thing looks incredible. So if
yeah,
people have never seen this before, don't know what he looks like, I mean, we'll have it on the episode artwork for this podcast and the thumbnail of the video.
yeah.
But if you want a little description, he's almost like Bigfoot, a
Meets a
gremlin, and
gargoyle.
a ghoulie and a gargoyle all mixed
Yeah,
together.
with a giant pentagram carved into his
Yeah,
ripped chest, like, this
yeah,
guy's cut.
shredded. He's shredded. Cellar Dweller is swole. He is
Yeah,
swole.
he's been working them gains.
Yeah, he's definitely been working them
He's a
games.
daddy.
Cellar Dweller is a daddy. Yeah, he's definitely been working out. Hey, if you're gonna have a giant pentagram on your chest, you gotta make that chest pop.
Yep.
Like the
Oh, he
pentagram
does.
just can't be sitting on some flab. It's got to pop. And Cellar Dweller's chest pops.
I wanna see Guillermo del Toro's remake of Cellar Dweller, where Cellar Dweller is just a fucking sex icon.
You have like The Rock playing him or something like that with his giant chest.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Someone with more charisma than The Rock, but yes.
Ouch. Ouch. Sorry, Dwayne. Can't be worse than whatever Red One is.
Uh,
So again, like we said, there's so many different mediums of art that are at this institute. One of them is this ex private investigator who is now wanting to become an actor, I guess. And he's
kind
straight up,
of.
or like an improv, like he's
Yeah,
doing
like,
improv.
he's doing, like, like, that's the thing, everyone's art is so weirdly defined. I feel like it changes from one scene to the next.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
just, like it's so funny because, yeah, he kinda does improv, but he's doing research for a role, so it makes you think, "Oh, is he act like" but
Or
then
is he still a private investigator? Yeah.
he's also writing about his experiences, so it's like, are you writing a book? Are you writing a play? Are you writing a movie? Are you are you
All
auditioning for a movie?
all of it. But he just starts blasting a gun in the school too.
Yeah, totally destroys someone else's art by
Yeah.
shooting it.
Like this guy needs to be kicked out of the school ASAP. He's just firing off a gun in it.
Yeah, like Yvonne DeCarlo's this like no nonsense. She doesn't like the new girl who just wants to draw comics, but like this guy who's shooting live rounds of ammunition through the art gallery is just fine.
He's fine.
He's
Well,
just another student.
it's because our main girl Whitney like critiqued her art 2 years ago, I guess, when they were at a different institute.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. There's a very vague backstory on how Whitney knows the Yvonne DeCarlo
Yep.
and one of the other students.
Yeah, it's never really it's sort of expounded upon, but it's
Yeah.
never like explicitly like well, I guess they do have that cat fight in the middle that kind of like says all of it, but
Yeah. It's
yeah.
enough to create some drama, at least getting
Yeah,
us fully on the side of Whitney and not on the side of anyone else at this school. They
yeah.
all suck. I mean, okay,
I
here's the
mean,
thing.
Whitney kinda sucks too, and I think the movie knows that because of the ending. Like, the ending's so I love the ending of this
Oh,
movie.
it's a 100% a
It's
downer
such a
ending.
downer ending. I love it.
But everyone is terrible at their art besides her.
Oh
Like,
god, the, like
can we be straight up with that? Like, I don't know what the videographer girl is doing. I don't know what she's trying to like if she's making movies, document like what I don't know what she's doing. The only time we ever see her doing anything with her camera is to blackmail Whitney.
Yeah, and it's kind of unclear how she plans to actually
Oh,
do that.
we're gonna get into that. That makes no sense. But Philip, the sort of love interest of the school, he like takes a liking to Whitney.
Yeah.
He's a painter who looks like he like finger paints. It's terrible. It is some of
Oh,
the worst painting I've
I
ever
think that's the joke though with him. Like, because they call him like kid all the time and they make him sound like he's younger. And so it's like, is it the joke that he's like 16 and so he looks like he's finger painting? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, he shouldn't be at this art institute then. Like it seems like a very exclusive one. There's only like 6 people there.
Yeah, well, education is bought, not earned,
Yeah,
especially higher
especially him.
education. Yeah.
Philip has very rich parents.
Yes, Philip definitely has rich parents.
And then yeah, everybody else, like the one acting gal who she's an actor slash singer.
Yeah, something like
Again,
that.
very vague. She does like this one woman show for everyone, and I mean it's
Terrible.
supposed to be cringe and terrible, but it's cringe and terrible.
What when they're critiquing everybody's art too, there's that one girl, I can't remember which one it is, but she goes like, "Death is sad." Like, that's her critique, that's it.
Yeah.
"Death is sad."
Okay, we got to get to. So I wrote down the video girl's name, Amanda. She's the one that has a feud with Whitney, our main
Yes.
protagonist.
Yeah.
So Whitney ends up going into the basement where Jeffrey Combs' character died 30 years ago. If you didn't know that, we're now 30 years later. It was 30 years ago when he died. It's now 30 years later.
And they also say this multiple times throughout the movie just in case you forget.
I almost forgot. Like
Yeah.
I forgot when the second title card came up of
Yeah.
30 years later. I didn't know if we were still stuck in the past or not. But
Well,
I'm
at one
glad they
point,
brought it
they
up.
went, like, 10 minutes without saying something about the guy who burned to death, and I was like, "Did a guy burn to death in this house?"
Yeah, he did. It was Jeffrey
Okay,
Combs. And now
good.
she's now in the basement and she's gonna like take up the mantle of Cellar Dweller of like, I'm gonna continue where he left off and
She
continue
finds
writing the
his
story.
Necronomicon.
Yeah, she finds the Necronomicon. I mean, there's this incredible like mural on the wall down there. It looks
Yeah.
incredible. But she starts drawing the Cellar Dweller again. And then you have Amanda, the video girl, who's like barely hiding in this basement window on the outside, like filming her like drawing
You
Cellar
can't
Dweller again.
even see all of the lens on her camera, and
Oh,
yet
it's like
somehow when you get the footage later in the movie,
it's
there's
it's
no,
footage
like
it's footage
there's
from the
no
movie.
yeah, it's literally footage from the movie. It's so funny.
It's
It's
so
so
fun.
funny.
She would have to be like in front of the desk to get the shot that they
Yeah.
show
And
that shows
even
up
the
on her table.
shot, they try and make it look anachronistic. Like, I'm like, "No, like, you would have had to have, like, the lip of the window in the bottom of the
Yeah.
frame." Like, I don't what are you doing?
So she's trying to blackmail Whitney and she takes footage of her drawing and then she then cuts to is it like it's the original drawing of Cellar Dweller, but
Yeah, or something like that.
there's no context of like she it's the original drawing of
Like,
Cellar
she
Dweller.
takes a
She
video of
signed
herself pretending to draw it,
but
but
just her
Whitney's
hand
still the
and then
signature.
yeah, she still leaves Whitney's signature.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know what her goal with this blackmail was. It didn't make any sense. She
No.
still signed Whitney's name onto the artwork that Whitney drew.
Unless we're 2 dum-dums who just didn't get something, like, I if both of us missed something, but I'm like, "I don't understand how this
No,
works," and
no,
I've seen this movie, like, 3 times in the past 2 years, so
no. It's no. It's 100% this character is just has a terrible blackmail plan. So it doesn't pan out for her because Cellar Dweller comes to life in her room with this incredible shot where he like rises up above her
Yeah.
TV. It looks Cellar Dweller is so cool. He's an incredible movie monster. I love Cellar Dweller so much.
Yep, and you get these, like, cool intercuts of him, like, chasing her and killing her, like, ripping her apart, while it keeps cutting back to Whitney drawing
What's
the
happening?
different scenes. And I love the way that the kill sequences are edited, because they don't all employ that same like rhythm or even that same like rollout, but they all have a sketched component and a like
Live action.
a live action we shot this component, and I kind of love that.
I also love Cellar Dweller, he just ends up eating these people.
Yeah, he eats them, and all the comic book ones have like munch, crunch, crunch as
Mhm.
like the sound bites, and I don't know, yeah.
Also, he's a rare movie monster that talks because he's like at the end of the scene, he's like, next.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, so a
Ah,
talking badass monster, Cellar Dweller he's incredible. What I
I
find
would 100% buy, like, I would if I went to an auction for Empire or something, I would totally buy some of the original art pieces from this movie,
oh, that would
because,
be
like, some
so
of these
cool.
sketches are so amazing, like, they're so good.
Yeah. The original artwork in this looks incredible.
Yeah.
Again, not just the monster, but the actual comic book artwork. What's funny is like once Whitney realizes, okay, this is how you defeat him, she like starts pouring white out on the comic to defeat him. So for the first time in movie history, a villain is wiped out with whiteout.
With
She goes
white out.
full Doodle Bob and just erases him.
Ah!
Yeah, Moy Manoy. Only if Cellar Dweller talks like Doodle Bob.
Oh my god. Yeah,
That's the
and
crossover we need, Sam.
it really is. That
Doodle
this
Bob versus Cellar Dweller.
Doodle Bob is basically, a
Kid's
remake of
version
Sweller Dweller,
of
yeah.
Cellar Dweller. Yeah.
Yeah, there are just some great gore gags in this. There's a great beheading where he, like,
SWAT.
smacks a guy's head right off of his shoulders, and, you've got, like, tendons and stuff, like, flailing out of his neck, and it's so over the top and gross, and I love it. There's a part where he slurps down, I think the character is Lisa, he, like, slurps down her eyeball.
Yep.
It's in his lips, and he just goes like, "Ugh."
Yeah, there's
It's
some incredible gore gags in this movie. Like
yeah.
you can tell Buchler's having fun making this movie.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing, like, this movie, regardless of whether or not you're like, "Oh, this is a good movie," I mean, I personally think it
It's
is, but, like, I could see people being like, "Oh, it's not a good movie," but, like, you cannot deny the fact that, like, everybody looks like they are having a fucking blast making this.
yeah, and this movie's just a fun movie to watch. Like we
It
said, it's
is, it's so
77
fun.
minutes long. It's a slow movie, but it jumps right into it. You get to see the monster. It abides by the rule of like you see the monster every 10 minutes type of thing. You get the
Mhm.
monster every 10 minutes, and especially in the second half, you get the monster a whole lot more. You get to see
Oh, yeah.
so much more of the monster, and the monster's super cool. Again, like I said, he talks, he eats the people, he's slurping down eyeballs, he's like sucking down limbs. Like this monster's incredible.
Yeah, and in the end, he wins.
In the end, the monster wins, and that's all
And
we
he
want out of our monster movies.
he has, like, the most mic drop awesome final line in the movie where he's like,
Hold on,
"What?"
no, 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 wait. We got to get to the. We're gonna leave off on that line. That line's
Like,
incredible. We can't
it's
give it
so
away
good.
yet. It's
It's
so good.
so good.
It's so good. So once she realizes how to defeat the monster, you got to get rid of him. On the page, and then you get rid of the monster in real life. So she tries with the whiteout. She gets stopped with that. Uh, she then like draws all of her or drew at some point. I don't know if does it show it in the movie. I'm trying to remember of
Yeah,
her drawing the people
she's drawn
from the
sketches of
institute.
all of them,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. She drew sketches of all the other people at the art institute. So they're all dead. They all die, and she's like, okay, this is how I'm gonna bring them back to life by drawing them. So she draws everyone back to life,
Yep.
but the cellar dweller still finds a way to come back. Like
Mhm.
she didn't get rid of him completely.
Yep.
And then she's like, okay, I'm gonna do what Jeffrey Combs did in the beginning, because that's how he defeated him. I'm gonna burn all the pages of the Cellar Dweller. So she does that, but in doing so, she also throws all the portraits into the fire as well. And so you see Philip come back to life, and he's like acting like a different character. Like
Yeah.
his character
They
changes. He's
they
always had
all
like,
seem a little weird, like,
yeah,
they're
they all
all
seem a
kind of
little weird.
like it's almost cosmic horror-y where it's like, "Oh, she brought him back, but, like,
They're not
their
them.
essence didn't come back with them," and it's kinda creepy, like, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and Phil comes back and he's like, "Hey, baby, like, is like I was looking for a real kiss." Like he's like a smooth talker almost.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's super weird, but she throws all the papers into the fire. Cellar Dweller starts burning up, and she looks over at Philip, and he just lights up on fire too. It's
Yep,
so good, and you realize, oh shit. You look in the fire, and there's all their portraits burning, and she's gonna burn all of her. She not only killed them once by bringing Cellar Dweller to life, she's gonna kill them all again in horrible, horrific ways by burning up in a fire now because she
yep,
drew them back to life. Incredible, incredible
amazing.
ending. Sam, I'll let you give that final line. That
Oh
Cellar
god, did you
Dweller.
actually write it down?
I
Because I
wrote
don't
it
wanna
down.
butcher it. You
Yeah, I
should do
wrote it
it
down.
because I
Okay.
didn't write it down, but I remember the gist of it.
So Cellar Dweller wins in the end. He's still alive, and this is his final line in the comic book. Wherever there is imagination, I will dwell.
Yes, that's what it
Cellar
is.
Dweller. This movie
Oh,
rules.
so good. So good.
So good. Wherever there is imagination, I will
I
dwell.
will dwell. Yep,
Charlie
banger.
Band, if you're listening, anyone at Full Moon is listening. You guys got the rights. I don't know if you guys had the rights to Cellar Dweller, but let's get a sequel. Let's get a
Yeah.
sequel.
At the very least, like, yeah, do something with it. It needs
Yeah.
something.
So Sam, Cellar Dweller. I have one piece of trivia that blew my mind. You want to get
Okay.
to that before we get to our rating?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So the piece of trivia that blew my mind was Philip. You know, the character we talked about. He's pretty damn annoying in this movie. He's
Yes.
he's played by Brian Robbins, who would go on to have a big career. So this movie again was really the start for two major careers. Don Mancini, Kit Dubois, who would then
Mhm.
go on that same year to have a hit with Child's Play and then spawn the Child's Play series afterwards.
Mhm.
Brian Robbins would go on to direct Good Burger at Nickelodeon.
Oh my god.
And then in the last few years would go on to become the head of Nickelodeon. So right now, Brian Robbins from Cellar Dweller is the head of Nickelodeon Studios.
That is insane.
Right?
That's
So,
crazy.
full circle moment. He was visiting the set of, or the writer's studio of SpongeBob. This is my headcanon. He was visiting the writer's studio of SpongeBob in the early 2000s. It's like,
Yep.
guys, I was in this movie called Cellar Dweller, and it's about a hand-drawn character come to life. Do that, but SpongeBob.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
gonna
I
I'm
think
gonna
that's what
believe
happened.
it to be true, yeah. It's gotta be true.
Sam, just remember, wherever there is imagination, I will
I
dwell.
will dwell.
He predicted it there. He predicted it there.
I love
And
that.
then the only other piece of trivia I had besides that, and it's one we'll talk about in I guess in Doobie Doing. Well, anyway, next week on the podcast, we have an interview with the creative team behind the doc of Chucky. And I mean, we
Yeah.
talked a ton about Chucky here. They also talk about Cellar Dweller in that 5-hour documentary as well, where
Mhm.
there's a scene in Curse of
Curse.
Chucky
Yeah.
that came out in 2013 where all these characters are eating chili, but we know there's rat poison in one of the chili bowls.
Yep.
Apparently, that was originally written by Kit Dubois, Don Mancini,
Mhm.
for Cellar Dweller.
Yep.
Insane that
So
he
cool.
took a scene that he wrote for Cellar Dweller in 1988 and put it into a movie he made in 2013.
Yep.
Incredible. So,
Yeah.
Sam, what are you giving out of, I don't know, what are we giving this?
Eyeballs
What's the rate?
slurped.
Eyeballs slurped? How many eyeballs slurped are you giving Cellar Dweller?
I gave both of these 4 out of 5. The 4 eyeballs slurped out of 5 eyeballs slurped. How about you, Cellar
Yeah.
Dweller?
Yeah, I'm on the same thing. I gave this 4 eyeballs out of 5 eyeballs slurped. I slurped them all down, and I'll continue to slurp them down because
Yeah,
this movie's a blast. Again, like
this
we said,
movie fucks.
it's a breezy 77 minutes. You kind of get everything you want out of a monster movie in this.
Mhm.
You get Jeffrey Combs, incredible monster effects, and boobs. Like I'm a simple man. That's all I want out of my monster movies.
Yep.
Cellar Dweller delivers on all three of those.
Yep. Absolutely. It's a banger. It's a
It's a bang.
banger.
It's a banger. It's a banger.
You know what else is a banger, Casey?
What's that?
Turp Boys.
Oh, what a segue.
Turp Boys is a banger. Are you looking for that extra buzz while watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? How about melting your mind by watching a little Cronenberg? Turp Boys Delta 8, 9, and THCA gummies, vapes, chocolates, and more has you covered. This plant-based product is made from only the purest organic hemp-based extracts and backed by third-party laboratories. You can go visit buyturpboys.com/screamsfromthebasementpod and use promo code screamsfromthebasementpod at checkout for 10% off your order. 10% to get a little mellow on a Friday night and watch some spooky movies. Boom.
Cellar Dweller is a perfect turf.
It is. I was definitely on some terps when we were watching Cellar Dweller.
Yeah. So shout out to Turp Boys for helping out on the podcast. And yeah, go check them out at Turp Boys and use our promo code. Get some awesome stuff.
Hell yeah. All right, Casey, it's
Yes.
time for my favorite question of the podcast.
Yeah.
We've done some of this stuff together, but what have you been doing?
I haven't been doing much in the last 2 weeks as far as watching anything. I only have
Yeah.
3 things on my doing list. So I watched. It was a movie we talked about last time we were here when we talked about the Unfriended movies. I mentioned a movie called Live Scream
Mm-hmm.
from 2018, and I said it was like I watched it during SuperCon. We had it. It's on Tubi right now, so if people want to watch it, you can go watch it on Tubi. I think it's like an hour 10, something like that. So it's like
Okay.
right in that it's in that sweet spot for that runtime. So rewatching it, I hadn't watched it since 2018, 2019. I can't remember which. I think it was 2018 that I watched it at SuperCon. Anyway, so the movie takes place all on this gamer's live stream while he's playing this horror game, and his chat starts to realize like, oh, something weird's happening while he's progressing through these levels. So like he'll beat a level, and then his chat will be like, I hear something outside my window. Now I hear it in my house. Now I hear it outside my door. And it's like the chat begins to realize, oh, this game that he's playing might be more real than he thinks.
Ooh.
Yeah. So his chat, like at one point, like one of the people in the chat dies on screen. You get to see it because their webcams get pulled up, and like the chat just disappears, and he's left
Oh my
only with like
God.
his mods and like some troll. So like, yeah, this movie's it's not perfect, but it's a hell of a concept. It's a hell of a use of the screen life horror.
Okay.
I think it's got something there where I think people should check this out. I did realize it also does have I think it's a sequel or a loose remake that came out, I think last year. I think it's called Live Screamers. And I haven't checked
Oh,
that
okay.
out. I think that's on Tubi as well. So I might check that out as well. But I would recommend Live Scream if you were into Unfriended. I mean, it's better than both of those movies, and like has some genuine scares. It's a fun movie.
I'll have to check it out. Like I said in the last episode, I like screen life. It just has to be done right.
It's got to be done right. And I think video games are a perfect place to have it. I mean, if you watch, I mean, I watch a lot of horror gamers when they like doing live streams and stuff when they play horror games, and like that's more scary to me sometimes than horror movies.
Yeah.
But speaking of horror movies, we both watched this one in the theater. We watched Beck and Woods, a couple Iowa boys making waves out in Hollywood. They wrote and directed a horror hit. Now it's one of my favorite horror movies of the year, Heretic, starring
Yeah.
Hugh Grant. Heretic, I loved this movie. Like I said, it's going to be in my top 10 for sure of the year. This movie's incredible. I didn't know what to expect going in at all. I don't even know if I really knew too much of the plot besides it was these two girls that end up at Hugh Grant's house and he's the villain.
Yeah.
That's all I really knew about this movie. First things first, the writing. It's Beck and Wood's best script. I think this is their best work as
Oh,
screenplay writers. If you don't recognize
hands
those,
down.
yeah, if you don't recognize those names, Scott Beck, Brian Woods, they wrote A Quiet Place. John Krasinski didn't write A Quiet Place, guys. Did you know that? They wrote
No,
A
he
Quiet,
just did a rewrite on it.
did a
They
rewrite,
wrote
and
the actual script.
they kind of stole everything about it. The sexiest man alive, John Krasinski. We should make sure we say that because he is the sexiest man alive.
Yeah, he also hasn't been interesting since The Office wrapped up, so
Well, that's true. I like A Quiet Place. I think he did a good job with that, but like, what has he made since?
A Quiet Place 2, which kind of just diminished the first one a little bit, honestly.
I wonder why, because he wrote that one. Anyway,
Yeah.
Beck and Woods also made is it 65?
65, which is a
Right?
movie
The
that I
Adam
don't
Driver movie?
love, but was at least interesting.
Yep. They
Yeah.
also wrote and directed Haunt from a couple years ago. And then this is their back to form, in my
Yeah.
opinion, with
This
Heretic.
is easily my favorite thing that they've done.
Yeah.
This movie fucking rips. It's like a total three-hander where you've got Hugh Grant, Chloe East, and Sophie Thatcher just all
Tearing
bringing
up the
just
screen.
these.
Yeah.
Oh, they're amazing in this movie. There's a great surprise cameo that I won't spoil. If you haven't seen it, it just like
Jar Jar
put a
Binks.
put a yeah, that too. So much of this movie put a smile on my face.
Yeah.
I do think like it was disarmingly funny. I was surprised at how much humor was in this. Um,
But it doesn't take away from any of the suspense. It finds
no,
that perfect balance.
it's almost funny in how uncomfortable it is. Like I think that's more what it is. You're almost laughing because it's like, what's gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
Why is he like this?
Why is he talking about Monopoly?
Yes, it's so good. Um, I yeah, this one also had a few genuine surprises. There is a moment about 2/3 of the way in that genuinely shocked me, and kind of pissed me off, and it took me a while to bounce back from. And I think the more I've sat with this movie, the more I'm like, well, that's obviously by design. And people have been getting shocked by horror movies and pissed off by horror movies in the same fashion for quite some
Yeah.
time. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that was actually a brilliant fucking move.
Here's the
And
thing. People like the biggest criticism I'm seeing for Heretic is the third act, which I do think is
it loses a little
it's
something.
I don't think it's necessarily it loses something or that it's weaker than the rest. I think it's just that in a story like this, the setup is the most intriguing part.
Yeah, when you start
Because
answering things, it's just never gonna be quite as interesting as like,
yep,
oh, what is going on?
what is
Yeah.
going on versus here's the answers or non-answers that this movie presents. And that's my favorite part of this though as well. Like I think the setup is incredible, but also like I mean it's a
There is some
story of
ambiguity in the ending
there's
too.
so much ambiguity
Yeah.
in the movie. And I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
Especially in a movie that's about religion where you have these two Mormon girls who go to a non-religious household.
2 very different Mormon girls. Like,
Mhm.
these 2 are so opposite in the way they approach their faith. The opening scene with them having their dialogue about sex and pornography, or
Yeah.
however she says, like,
Yeah.
Chloe East says pornography in the funniest
Funniest
way,
way.
as, like,
Like she's
someone who
scared to
just
say it or like
yeah, like, it's
uncomfortable to
the
say it.
first time she's ever said it out loud before, like, it's so that scene just instantly connects you to the 2 female leads,
Mhm.
and it makes them immediately endearing, and you're like, "I don't want anything bad to happen to either."
Oh, and then you get like the analogies that Hugh Grant uses where he uses like
The board games.
the board games, the fast food restaurants,
Okay.
the whole blueberry sequence where he gets like the backstory for
Mhm.
both of these girls. Just incredible writing all around.
The Taco Bell reference, um, I mean, I won't spoil anything, but, like, the Taco Bell reference is based on a real, actual thing that happened, like, 20 years ago. Like, it was a real story. I didn't know that until after the movie, and I was, like,
Oh,
doing research on it 'cause I'm it'll be dropped by the time this episode goes, but yeah, there'll be a big review where I review, like, actually 6 different 2024 movies that I've, um, watched in the past 2 weeks, not all of which that I'll be talking about on Doobie Doing, so if you wanna hear my thoughts on 6 different movies, go over to our Patreon. Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
This will be one of them, but yeah, like
Heretic, go watch it in the theaters,
yeah,
please. Go support this movie if it's still out there. It's going to be on, I assume, both of our top 10 lists by the end of the year. It's
yeah, probably.
definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, fantastic movie.
And then the only other thing I have, I'm not going to say much about it besides, again, go watch it,
Yeah.
was the doc of Chucky, which is on Shudder right now. Go watch it. It is made by the same creative team who did Crystal Lake Memories and Never Sleep Again. If
The
that says any,
RoboDoc,
the Robo
the
Doc.
RoboCop doc. Yeah.
So if that says anything about like what this is, I mean, it's a 5-hour documentary dissecting the entire Child's Play franchise from the original film all the way up until Cult of Chucky. I
Mhm.
mean, they don't touch on the TV show, they don't touch on the remake. We get into that in our interview with the
Yes.
creators behind Doc of Chucky. So be on the lookout next week for our interview with them. But yeah,
Mhm.
Doc of Chucky, I loved it. Again, like those other two, it's just gonna play in the background.
Yeah. It
Whenever I'm
fucking
like in a
rules.
Chucky mood, I'm gonna throw it on in the background.
And as someone who, like, Chucky's my ride or die as far as my horror franchise. Like, I'm just so happy. We like as Chucky fans, we have been eating good. We have had 3 seasons of an incredible TV show and 2 different documentaries in the past 2 years. Like, that's amazing, you
Mhm.
know? Yeah, and Doc of Chucky is it's great. It's so in depth and it's so like I don't know, there's just a warmth to this franchise and the people who make it that, this doc just
Yeah.
really
You
showcases well.
you can tell how much people love Kit Dubois.
Yes.
Sam, what about
Absolutely.
you? What about you? What have you been doobie doing?
So, I'll only
I
talk
see
about
there is some stuff that is not horror related on here.
yeah, yeah, I
I have one that's not, well, we both watched this recently. I watched Deadpool and Wolverine. I know you did too.
yeah, I did.
I don't want to talk about it. It's not very
I
good.
don't really either. Here's the thing, if you like Marvel movies, you'll probably like Deadpool and Wolverine. If you don't like Marvel movies, don't check it out.
If you like
Um
post Endgame Marvel movies, you might like it, but if you don't,
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, like, if you're
yeah.
still watching the
If you're
Marvel
still on the
movies
Marvel train,
consistently,
yeah,
like, you will like it, otherwise, I
nothing
think it's a
burger.
non-starter, yeah,
Anyway,
I liked the graduation reel over the credits
I
where
didn't.
"Time of Your Life" plays, I just thought it was so funny.
I don't know.
Uh,
Anyway, moving on.
speaking of
You go.
awful needle drops, okay, so I went to the new Venom movie with my sister.
Oh, you went to this.
I went to it.
You paid money for this?
My sister paid for my ticket.
Okay. Well, you didn't pay money for this then.
No, I didn't pay money for this. Um, I would have though. I don't know. Okay, so here's what I'll say. Venom: The Last Dance is the worst Venom movie. It is the worst Venom movie.
Okay.
It is also my favorite Venom movie. I can't even talk about this movie without laughing hysterically. Okay, so it has all of the hallmarks of the typical Venom Sonyverse types of movies.
Okay.
Um,
Which I'm
Tom
kind of
Hardy.
into. I'm not gonna lie. They're all like 2-star or less movies, but I'm more intrigued by the Venomverse movies than I am the MCU nowadays.
Yeah, well, at least you know you're getting a train wreck with these, as opposed to just like a movie that skates by on
Cameos.
whatever. Yeah. So Venom: The Last Dance is a hodgepodge of like 4 or 5 different movies, one of which is like a buddy road trip comedy between Eddie Brock and Venom, one of which is a strange hippie family that just they're like going to Area 51 for the first time so that the dad can see an alien as his lifelong dream, played by Riz Ifans, the lizard from The Amazing Spider-Man, but in like a wig, like a long hippie wig.
Okay.
Temple plays a scientist who has a paralyzed arm from a childhood incident involving her getting struck by lightning and the lightning going through her arm and killing her brother. Um, and you keep thinking, oh, that's going to play into it. And it does for about 30 seconds at the very end of the movie. Um, there's a villain who, no spoilers, but this villain, the villain of this movie, Null, who's a
Mhm.
big deal in the comics.
Yeah, that's a big character.
I'm sorry, light spoilers for Venom: The
Spoil
Last
it! No
Dance.
one's going to watch Venom: The
Noel
Last
doesn't
Dance
get
still.
up out of his chair the entire movie. He sits and he gives exposition and he sends these generic looking xenomorph looking aliens out to hunt the symbiotes. But then the big bass battle is with the symbiote, like the symbiote killers, and not with Null.
Okay. They're saving him for Spider-Man. Obviously, that's never gonna happen.
Oh, dude, this movie's baffling. Like, it's so baffling.
I can't
And
wait to watch this and Madam Web like back to back at some
it
point
goes
this
it
winter.
goes for a kind of emotional ending, but then it needle drops Maroon 5 over the emotional ends. I'm not making this up.
I have a feeling like these Venom movies are parodies.
They have to be some of these choices, dude, I'm telling you. I'm like, they had to have made this like, they had to have made it this way on purpose because it's so ridiculous.
I mean,
I
Tom
was
Hardy in the first movie like jumps into a
Oh,
lobster
yeah,
tank at some
and
point.
he's doing a lot of that weird, like, physical humor, like, he's bringing a weird energy to it. This movie is a laugh a minute, and I don't think all of it's intentional, but some of it has to be just because of how nuts it is.
Did
So,
Andy Serkis come back for this one or no?
yeah, he plays
Oh,
Null. He
oh,
plays Null,
okay.
but he doesn't move for the entire movie. He doesn't move. I'm
You
not
mean
kidding.
you mean they did the motion capture in his directing chair?
Yes. That's he literally didn't get up out of like, oh, it's so crazy. So
Okay, I'm excited to watch this now.
there is a there's an end credit song that was written for the movie, that actually kind of fits the vibe. Like it's kind of punk rocky and stuff, and it's fun, and you're like, yeah. And then that song ends, and instead of playing the score or a similar vibe, I don't know if you're aware of this song, but they played "I Had Some Help," the country song by Post Malone featuring Morgan Wallen.
I don't know that.
Over the end credits of this movie. And when that happened, that made me laugh harder than anything in the movie. I'm like, where did this come from? I had a blast with this movie. I highly recommend Venom: The Last Dance, but with the caveat that it is not a very good movie.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, it's fun. You will laugh your ass off at it. It's very
See, again, like I've had so much fun watching both Venom movies and Morbius. I haven't watched Madam
Mhm.
Web yet. Um, I'm sure I'll have fun watching how terrible that is. I can't wait
Yeah.
for how terrible Craven the Hunter is going to be next year.
This year. It's coming out in
Wh-
December.
What?
Yeah, it's coming out next month. They're, like, literally playing ads for it on the TV. Maria and I were watching hockey, and they have Craven the Hunter ads running on TV right now.
I have seen zero trailers or advertising for this movie.
Oh, really?
Since,
It played in front of Venom.
well, yeah, I'm sure, but yeah, I've not seen anything on that. I thought it was next year. Okay,
Uh,
should we go watch Craven in theaters?
I mean, I wouldn't mind reviewing it for our Patreon.
Okay. Well, patrons, let us know if you want Sam to review Craven, and
Hopefully, it's the funniest Venom The
maybe we
Last
can do a
Stand.
December bonus episode on the Venomverse.
Yes. Oh god, that would be fun.
I don't know.
That
I
would
have to
be
watch
so
Madam
fun.
Web and Last Dance yet, but
I only have to watch Madam Web. I'm not gonna rewatch any of the ones I've already seen. Most of them are scarred into my brain whether I want them to be or not.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Anyway, what else? What else you got?
Speaking of, Beckenwoods, I watched A Quiet Place Day 1, which they didn't have anything to do with, but, you know, it's the 3rd
Probably still
movie in
have
a
producing credits, I'm sure.
I think they did, yeah. This one is by, Michael Sarnowski, the filmmaker behind Pig,
Pig.
the movie from a few years ago, with Nicolas Cage. Beautiful movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking about both Pig and A Quiet Place Day 1. Um, like, even with the cast and, like, Pig guy being behind the camera, I wasn't super excited for this, and it's because, like, A Quiet Place just isn't my franchise. Like, it's fine. I get the appeal. I've seen them in theaters. They're fun theater watches.
Doesn't need to be a yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a franchise. This movie's so goddamn good. It is, like, definitely an alien monster apocalypse movie, but that's just, like, kind of backsetting for this just beautiful human story that is so well acted by Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn. Um, Alex Wolf? I think it's Alex Wolf. One of the Wolf brothers is in this. I think the one from Hereditary.
Okay,
Is that
Alex.
Alex Wolf? Yeah. Yeah. Alex Wolf is in this too for at least a little while, and he's very good in this movie too. Um, the cat steals the show. It's a cat lovers movie for sure. Like, I was so moved by this. I don't really wanna say too much in case people haven't heard much about it, but, like, the MacGuffin of this movie is a slice of pizza from a specific pizzeria, but it's not played for laughs like Woody Harrelson's, like, Twinkie thing in Zombieland. Like, there's a deeper emotional reasoning for this pizza,
There's a
and
deep emotional meaning for his goddamn
there
Twinkie and
there
zombie.
is. It's just not played up as much that way, right? Like, I don't know. This movie, it might not have done a whole lot of new things as far as, like, things we haven't seen before, but,
Yeah.
like, it just did the classic stuff really well, and it's beautifully acted, wonderfully shot. The sound design, like in all of these movies, is immaculate. I really liked this, and what I liked the most about it was it didn't feel like a big generic blockbuster. It felt like Michael Sarnowski got big blockbuster money to make a Michael Sarnowski movie. And mm, I'm a sucker for that. Very much a sucker for that. I watched Hot Frosty. It's an eldritch terror about a snowman that
Sam,
is,
we're a horror movie podcast.
it's an eldritch horror movie about about a soulless snowman that gets a magic scarf put on him one day and he's forced into existence. They don't dwell on the existential horror, but, it
And
was
then asked
fun.
him date Lacey Chabert.
Yeah, it was it was cute. It was dumb. It was light and fluffy. If you like those, if you like those, check it out. Anyways, so this is my last thing that I want to talk about is actually a crime show. Like, it's on ABC. Um, but it's very good. It's called High Potential, and it's got Caitlin Olsen from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in the lead role.
Sweet D.
Yeah, and so it's in the same vein as like a Lucifer or a Psych, where it's like, oh, it's a like a quirky person that gets a job as a consultant with a law agency. But Caitlin Olsen is like this single mom of 3 kids, and she has um basically it's like high potential something or other. It's a mental, not disorder, but like basically a mental condition where she can like pick up on things and recognize patterns that other people can't. And her brain is always like running, and she doesn't sleep very often. And she's just like operating on a genius level. She's got an IQ of 160. But she's always been in these like low income jobs. And when she starts the show, she's a cleaner at the police station. And one night she accidentally tips over a case file, and looking at it recognizes a mistake and changes something on the board, and then gets arrested for tampering with an investigation, but ends up helping them figure out like what actually happened, and becomes a consultant. And it's about that, but it's also about her trying to like raise these 3 kids, one of whom's a teenager, one of whom is like a middle schooler but has her abilities, so he's like super high functioning too, and then there's a baby. Um, and it just Caitlin Olsen is so fucking good in this show, and it lets her showcase so many different chops than she gets to on her more comedic things. Like, she's definitely in more of a dramatic role here, but she's still able to be, like, witty and whip smart, and there's a lot of humor in it, but, like, man, some of these episodes have hit hard, and it's only, like, 7 episodes into the first season, but I just really feel like it came out the gate strong, and, it's one that I'm actually gonna start watching weekly as it airs, because it's on ABC, but it's next day Hulu. So, it's not like horror, but it is crime, people get murdered in it. So I was like, "I'm gonna talk about this." So if anybody's looking for, like, a crime show that's, I don't know, pretty good for a network crime show, highly recommend High Potential. It's very good. It's very good. And that's all I've been doobie doing. That's not all I've been doobie doing, but, like, it's most of what I've been doobie doing. It's this
Watching watching Venom: The Last Dance and Hot Frosty.
and Hot Frosty.
Hot Frosty. Well, Sam, that's it for the show.
That's it. We
That's
did it.
it. We did it. We did a podcast. So let's wrap this thing up. Let's get to some of the plugs that we got here at Screens from the Basement. You can join us on Patreon. Samus talks about that,
Woo.
where you can get his what, 6, what'd you say? 6 movie reviews in one?
Yeah, I just called it like a like Sam's rapid fire movie reviews, and I've got
Okay.
6 movies that I'm doing. It's long. It's been a process, but I'm on my last little blurb, and then it'll be up. So
So yeah, go to you can go to patreon.com/screams from the basement. Screams is capitalized, basement's capitalized, or just go to the link in the description of this podcast episode, or scan that QR code on the screen right now. We have both $1 and $5 tiers. $1 tier, you get a monthly newsletter and a signed 8x10 artwork print that we will send to you in the mail. $5 tiers get a monthly bonus episode. We do have the topic for November's bonus episode. We're going to each be giving our top 5 favorite Scream Queens of all time. We need to find a time to
wait, isn't it Final Girls?
what did I say? What did I say?
Scream Queens?
Final Girls. Sorry.
Okay. I was like, those are 2 different things. What did they vote for?
No. Fine. Sorry. Top 5 Final
Yeah.
Girls.
Cool.
That will each of us will have our own top 5 list for that. So we should probably find a time to record that soon, so we can get that
Yeah.
out hopefully within the next week or so.
Oh, yeah.
Sam also has written reviews. You have a Hellboy review out now. Going to
Mhm.
have his rapid fire reviews up, and then I'm also doing Casey's collection videos where I'm taking you inside the home office here and showing off the collection. Just did a video on all of my Evil Dead collection in the office. So
Nice.
again, you'll get weekly collection videos if you join our $5 tier. But all that's and so much more on the Screens from the Basement Patreon. Sam,
Yeah.
where can they find us online?
Well, you can subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube if you like that video component. Um, you can also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok. I think I
Yes.
got all of them right.
Yes, you did.
Oh, yeah, and join our Discord.
Hey, yeah,
Yeah,
we are in Discord.
we are. We're on Discord. And yeah, we're Casey, if they want to support the show by repping us and buying a little bit of merch, where can they do that?
They can do that on our T Public store. You can find the links again in the episode description to our T Public store. We got so many different designs up on there. You can get our classic Screams from the Basement logo. You can get our Now Screaming shirt, which has been our most popular one, where it's us as zombies outside of a movie theater. We'll
Mm-hmm.
also have some new designs coming up in the next couple of weeks and months, and just keep an eye on that. We're going to be continuing to upload some new designs onto
And
our T
correct me if
Public
I'm
store.
wrong. Everything is on sale right now until the 26th, correct?
Until the
This week?
26th, yes. So
Yeah,
pre Black Friday sale. So you can get
yeah,
35% off everything on the store, including $16 t-shirts. So you can't beat that price.
it's a good
Go
deal.
check it out and help support the show. We get a little kickback with each purchase made on our T Public store.
Yeah.
All
Cool.
right. Well, we did it. We did a
We did it.
podcast again. We'll be back in 2 weeks with both of us doing a double feature topic. Hey, we might even have a guest
We
on that
might.
one.
That's gonna be a fun episode.
But next week, check out our interview with the creative team behind Doc of Chucky. Also up on our YouTube right now, you can check out our interview Q&A with the one and only Doug Jones live from the Sioux Falls State Theater from this past September when we hosted Doug at the State Theater for a showing of his remix of Nosferatu. Incredible work from our buddy Daniel Pike on the video on that. It looks
Mhm.
incredible, sounds incredible. Shout out to Daniel Pike at Pike Productions for the video of that amazing night. It's going to live in it's going to live on the internet forever now because of
Yep.
that. So shout
I
out
mean,
to
I've watched that video like 3 times and I still don't
it's
believe it
so
happened.
it's so good. It's so cool. Please go check it out. It's an incredible video and
It is.
incredible recap of an amazing night. So please
The
go
Pike
check that out.
Bros knocked it out of the park.
Knocked it out of the park. Speaking of knocking it out of the park, we're going to wrap this thing up and we're going to knock ourselves out of the park. I don't know where I was going. I'm just trying to get us to wrap up the show. Sam, give us that sign off.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and sweet screams.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.